What's up, everybody? I'm David Hain, and I'd like to welcome you to episode 37 of the A to D From Addict to Disciple podcast. I'd like to give a big shout out to our listeners from Mountain View, Alameda, Sacramento, and Visalia, California. Thanks for listening. If you'd like one-on-one counseling, or if you want to start or join an online group using the From A to D curriculum and podcasts, go to my website, www.fromatod.org, and click on the contact page, or leave me a message on Anchor. When we come back, we'll get into our episode entitled Homeless in Seattle. Welcome back to this episode entitled Homeless in Seattle. Seattle, like communities all around the world, is struggling to deal with the rise in homelessness in the city. What do you picture when you think of homelessness? Do you picture guys hanging out on the pavement drinking cheap wine or beer? Do you picture people who have set up a community under a bridge or an overpass? Do you picture drug addicts who have invaded your community parks, and now there are used needles and trash everywhere, and you're afraid to take your children there to play? Do you picture men with scruffy beards waiting by the red light, begging for money? If you walk the streets at night, do you see people sleeping at the doorway of closed stores, or curled up on stoops, lying on newspapers or pieces of cardboard? Maybe you see them picking food out of the dumpsters at McDonald's or KFC as you go through the drive-thru. Seattle's oldest park, dating back to 1883, is called Denny Park. It's described on its website as, quote, a peaceful green island, and broad pathways planted with rhododendrons and azaleas lead to a central circle surrounded by thick crowned maples, pines, and other trees shield the grass and its sprawling occupants from city noises until it's time to return to the working world. But on the 8th of December 2020, James Thayer posted in the news network The Bulwark, and I quote, "Seattle's refusal or inability to solve its homeless problem is killing the city's livability." He called the city's website description a pleasant fiction obscuring an ugly truth. Thayer went on to describe Denny Park this way: a crime-ridden, garbage-strewn, rat-afflicted encampment, which is avoided by all but the addicts and criminals who've taken it over. Tents are everywhere. The Seattle police have said an active crime ring works in the park. The place is dangerous and filthy. Seattle's ABC TV station, KOMO, sent out reporters and TV cameras to interview some of the homeless people in various parks around the city. Here's some quotes from these interviews. The first one: "I'm addicted to drugs. I'm not ashamed to admit it. It's the main reason, and I can look at the camera and say this, the main reason people are out here is drugs." Another homeless person added, "I have not met anyone else on the street who is not in some phase of addiction. I would say 100% of the people I have met out here are at some level of addiction. 100%. Well, the National Coalition for the Homeless in the United States found that 38% are dependent on alcohol and 23% are dependent on drugs. A study into homelessness in Canada, reported by Jordan Press in the Canadian press in 2016, reported About 1 in 3 of the homeless people said the cause of homelessness was a family conflict. 1 out of 5 said addiction was the cause, and in some areas of Canada, it's the number one cause. 1 out of 5 said getting out of jail was the cause. Losing a job was the cause for only 1 out of 7 homeless people in this study in Canada. So, addiction is not only sometimes a cause of homelessness, but becomes a leading coping mechanism due to the homeless people's position in society. Many homeless people use alcohol to numb their pain and warm their bodies. Many people who have been homeless for a while will share what they have with newcomers who arrive in their tent or cardboard box communities. They'll also share words of wisdom like, shield yourself from the wind, or drink whiskey to stay warm. And when they can't afford to buy alcohol, they turn to substitutes like mouthwash and hand sanitizer. Sometimes when they get money, many homeless people turn to drugs in their situation. This substance use becomes the coping mechanism for the stressors of homelessness, and due to their invisibility in society and in the community, the number of overdose deaths among the homeless is disproportionate. So what are some of the stressors of being homeless? Well, there's living on the streets, having to find food, dealing with health issues, the loss and separation from loved ones, dealing with the elements of the weather, being victims of crime, and being victims of acts of violence like rape and getting beaten up. Women who are homeless are targeted and much more likely to be victims of assault and rape. Seattle's TV station KOMO reported that Precious Martin is an advocate for the women who are the homeless in Seattle. She's known as the matriarch of Denny Park. She describes her role as doing regular checks on the people in the park in this way. Quote, just to keep an eye on things like a mom or a big sister would do. I think it's one of the reasons that pushes me to fight for others who can't fight for themselves. They see us as targets, not people, Martin says. We are property or objects for them to do what they want. Shaw. Teresa of Calcutta is quoted as saying, the people in the parks, the alcoholics, the homeless, they are looking at you. Do not be those that look and do not see. Look and see. So what do you see when you see a homeless person? Do you simply see property or objects? Do you see people who are a blight in your community? Do you see people who bother you begging for money for bus fare or food? Well, a friend of mine from Georgia, the late Keith Naylor, challenged me many years ago to see Jesus inside every homeless person through his song Spring Street. And Spring Street is where you could find the homeless in Atlanta, Georgia. Listen to Keith's lyrics. Hey, mister, do you have a dime? Do you have a dime? That's all I need for my train fare. I lost my job and my wife's real sick and my baby. Oh, it's more than I can bear. And I smelled the scent of Listerine and the baby steps of a well-planned scheme, and I wondered. Oh, I wondered why my God was here. I wondered why he needed a beer in the winter. Hey, Jesus, with your worn-out clothes and your scattered mind, what you doing on Spring Street? Of all the people you could be, did you have to pick a disguise so distressing? Wow. Yes, we may see many things about homeless people and their addictions that are distressing to us and our comfortable lifestyle or our comfort zone. But the Bible says in Proverbs 3, verses 27 and 28, "Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is in the power of your hand to do so. Do not say to your neighbor, 'Go and come back, and tomorrow I will give it,' when you have it with you." Hebrews chapter 13 and verses 1 and 2 say, "Let brotherly love continue. Do not forget to entertain strangers, for by so doing some have unwittingly entertained angels." That's deep. You see, homeless people are not the problem. They are the result of the problems in our society. Homeless people have many needs. How can homeless people find and develop the support system they need? How can they fit into the 9 to 5 schedule to get an appointment for social services? How can they access the help or addiction treatment they need when they don't have access to transportation? These are a lot of questions. But in closing, I want to leave you with this one thought. How would you react if you ask a homeless person, "How are you doing?" and this was their answer? "I'm not doing so good. Anyways, I'm just giving up on life." Thanks for listening to this episode of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you'd like to support our work with homeless people caught in the snare of addiction, click on the support link in this episode's description. Your donation of any amount could change or save a life. Tune in Monday for our next episode, and as always, stay safe and stay strong.